Welcome back to the news at 10. The Delta State government has continued to appeal to residents of flood-prone areas to leave for dry lands. The Commissioner for Information, Pt.3, says the evacuation is important because of the high possibility of an outbreak of diseases which might be triggered by the flooding. Mr. Oka also asked displaced residents to go to temporary shelters set up by the government.
There's need for the press to help us. We don't need to wait until it has happened. The areas that are likely going to be flooded, it is important that they move away from those areas now. But for the state, we are ready to pick up this because we know definitely people are going to be moved into the IDP camps, and we set up camps in about 3 areas of the state. So, but please, the warning is we don't need to wait until it happens. But we're also aware that the Ministry of Environment has been going out to open up the canals, and a lot of work has been going on in different communities to open up so that we allow this water to be able to take a proper level. So we are doing a lot. The government is being proactive to ensure that we are not caught unawares again.
Now, the Professor Ayo Ogunye Trust Fund University of Lagos Research Grant in Chemical Engineering has been presented to this year's recipient, Dr. Rashid Owolabi. This year's award, the third in the series, will be used in the research of a greenfield biodiesel to generate alternative source of energy derivable from agriculture and biological feedstock. The research-based endowment by Professor Ogunye is aimed, among others, at promoting scholarship and academic excellence in the Department of Chemical Engineering.
Ogunye has done a lot for the university system. I'm able to say that this award of Doctor of Science that it was given by this university is in enormous recognition of his sacrifice to academic excellence, his capacity to accommodate all, and his willingness to give. I think it was the Dean of Engineering who borrowed the words from the Bible, where you give is given unto you, pressed down, shaken together. It's in that giving that he has been blessed in no small measure. And if he didn't make the sacrifice of setting aside his gratuity and all entitlements, as at that time, this dream wouldn't have come to pass.
The Anambra State Governor, Willie Obiano, is challenging new members of the State Judicial Council to use their wealth of experience to add value to the council. Governor Obiano was speaking during the inauguration of council members at the Governor's Lodge in Amobia.
There are handshakes around the room in what seems to be a light-hearted event. However, it is anything but that. 3 new members are about to be admitted to the Anambra State Judicial Council, an arm of government responsible for interpreting the law. The new members are a former deputy governor of the state, a law professor at Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka, and a former director at the Central Bank of Nigeria. The State Attorney General, who doubles as the Commissioner for Justice, sets the tone for the meeting.
This commission has onerous responsibilities. Appointment of judges, it is within their purview. Discipline of staff of judiciary, they take responsibility of doing that.
The governor feels confident that these new entrants to the Judicial Council will discharge their duties well.
It's a very important organ, like you've been told, both privately and now. I'm very happy and confident that with your pedigree, you'll be able to add value to what we are doing in this area. You know, just like the other 3 that served us did add value. You know, so on that note, we would like to congratulate you for this important
Code of conduct for public officers under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The members are formally inaugurated and collectively sign their appointment documents.
All I can say on behalf of my co-members is that we will not disappoint you. We will also not disappoint Anambra State because we know our status in the Committee of Nations in Nigeria.
Each member is to serve out a 5-year tenure, during which they will be expected to discharge their duties with sobriety, integrity, and transparency.
The Convention of Business Integrity has called for friendly regulatory policies that will drive the growth of foreign direct investment in Nigeria. And at the first in the series of its conversations, the group maintains that Nigeria remains a viable market and must be made attractive to investors. Our correspondent Loretta Chogo reports.
Do we need these foreign direct investments we're talking about? Yes. As government has accepted a lot of key things we need to deal with, we cannot afford. And there are few nations that on their own can drive their own economy.
It's a gathering to dissect the role of effective regulatory actions in attracting and retaining foreign direct investment.
Anybody who is doing business in Nigeria, you know that that person has come a long way, coping with the likes of incessant power supply. You become a local government of your own because you generate your electricity, you generate everything that you have to deal with. And that makes the cost of business very, very high. Many of you operate and you go abroad every day. You find if you pay $35 or maybe £35, you can use the phone for a whole month and you have excesses, you have free weekends. Nobody is defending the people. Nigeria is being milked out. Who defends the defenseless?
A broader perspective on the subject matter is anchored by a panel of discussants moderated by Dr. Christopher Kolade.
Once regulation is not transparent, once it's not consistently applied, once it's not all necessary information is not readily available at the push of a button, and once it is not enforced consistently and at the right time, we are no longer competitive as a market. So to round up, what should we be doing? My first thought in terms of practical steps, one is that we need to overhaul the entire process by which we inform players of the rules by which we play in our market.
Few years, the federal government has taken specific steps to promote ease of doing business. So we've moved 24 sports to 145. We have PEBEC. We have the Provisory Action Committee on Corruption. And I guess what is really needed is a complementary action in terms of strengthening our regulators so we can then have predictable and consistent regulatory activities.
Foreign direct investment in Nigeria increased by $808.56 million in the first quarter of 2018. That's according to Trading Economic website. But Mr. Femi Falana has a different perspective to the FDI in Nigeria.
Sir, those who operate here, sir, local and foreign investors, are smiling to the banks at the expense of the country. They are operating in a laissez-faire atmosphere. You have refused to implement one law, the Deep Offshore and Production Contract Act, alone. And I said the government was losing money. I was ignored. Last year I did a petition to the EFCC. And the Minister of Petroleum, Minister of State in the Petroleum Resources, Dr. Ebe Kashibu, came out to disclose to this country in October last year that by the non-implementation of that law, the country has lost $60 billion. He then said, okay, my learned friend, yes, let's forget the past. Can we now review the law? And what has the government said? We are not going to review that law. So, sir, if we are going to discuss regulations, they are there, but they are never enforced.
Also worthy of note from conversations here is that unchecked businesses can go overboard and unchecked regulators can also affect businesses. However, it is important that both parties strike a balance, and this would be through government implementable policies. Loretta Chogo, Channels Television News. Let's look at some more business news. Here's Anne Wilder.
You First. First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Ijoma, and welcome to Business News. The federal government has sold its share in the Nigerian Security Printing and Minting Company to the Central Bank of Nigeria at a price of 12.4 billion naira. At the official signing ceremony at the presidential villa, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, said the sale will allow private sector participation and bring the cutting-edge technology and innovation required.
The whole idea is that there are synergies that could come from public and private sector coming together, especially in these kinds of rather complex processes. Security printing has taken new dimensions. We cannot, it's no longer what it used to be. As a matter of fact, there are those who will say that today is more technology than merely security printing. Because if you look at some of the cards that are being printed today, I mean, the chips are not just security, they are actually technological assets. So there are new dimensions and there are new ideas, and it's just the private sector that can really be at the cutting edge of technology and innovation. So the private sector brings in that expertise and brings in that innovative edge. And we think that this particular union between the CBN and De La Rue, and we hope as time goes on, even greater expertise will be drawn into the company.
Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, shareholders of infrastructure investment platform of the African Development Bank called Africa 50 have approved the expansion of the board of directors to include 5 new independent members. The new directors are from Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, Lebanon and France. Mrs. Imoni Apofure, as non-executive director of GT Bank, is among the 5 directors. The AFDB president, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, says the new directors of Africa 50 are all expected to make substantial contribution to the work of the organization and help close the continent's infrastructure gap. In the meantime, the Africa 50 CEO, Elena Bose, says that the new team will possess top-level regional and sectoral skills, and they have served on the boards of other companies in the past. Let's talk about performance on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. It has ended today's session in the green on the back of fresh demand for high-valued equities by investors. Tosin Adesina has the details for us.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. The domestic stock market today reversed the losses earlier recorded in Monday's session as renewed bargain hunting by short-term investors lifted the all-share index by 56 basis points. The positive sentiment is attributed to recovery from 4 out of the 5 key counters of the market, with the banking sectors as the leader. Out of 27 gainers, the shares of First Aluminium, Prestige Assurance and Royal Exchange emerged in the top 3 category, while Red Star Express tops a list of 18 losers. Total volume of shares traded for the day increased by over 109 million units to 269.81 million shares from 4,705 transactions, driven by the shares of Access, Skybank and Zenith Bank. That was the Stock Market Report. I'm Tosin Adesina.
Thank you, Tosin. Well, it's a similar positive finish for major global equities market as investors are shaking off the impact of latest round of tariff dispute between 2 of the world's largest economies. We're talking about United States and China. Let's see the numbers for today. Thanks a lot for watching Business News tonight. I'm Anne Nwawadu. It's back to you, Joma.
You first. First Bank.
Thanks, Anne. Still ahead on the news at 10, Juventus winger Douglas Costa banned for 4 Italian Serie A games for headbutting and spitting defender Federico Di Francesco. That's on sports. Please stay with us.